country. William Clouston's here from the SDP. Very good morning to you, William.
Hi, Mike.
We've got the Starmer tweet in full now. I think we're going to stick it up on the screen. Here's what he actually says. We have detained the first illegal migrants under our new deal before returning them to France. No gimmicks, just results. If you break the law to enter this country, you will face being sent back. When I say I will stop at nothing to secure our borders, I mean it. You can see it up there on the screen. I think we need to explain to Keir Starmer, who's meant to be quite an intelligent man, who's worked in the law for many years, that this is not a result. He says no gimmicks, just results. It's not a result until you've sent them back, is it?
No, and the thing
detaining them isn't a result.
No, and it won't work anyway. This is just another publicity stunt by one of the duopoly parties. The Tories did this with Rwanda. We've seen it all before. A result, Mike, would be the flow stopping altogether.
Yes.
And you can only do that if you detain every single person that comes. So a percentage, a small percentage. Right. I mean, they've said a number. You don't know. I mean,
why won't they say the number? Presumably because it's not very high.
Well, what I worry about is that one is a number.
Yeah.
Right, so this isn't going to...
I mean, they have used the word migrants with an S.
Yes, OK.
So let's say it could be 2.
Yeah, Bill Clinton. So I don't know. I don't think this will work. If he wants to be judged on results, it will stop. It won't stop. It'll continue. People in pubs and in the real world, outside SW1, regard this as a state-sponsored invasion of the country.
Well, many people have said to me over the past sort of several weeks, actually, the real smuggling gang is the government.
Is the government, yeah, because they're the biggest part.
Yeah.
They are providing the incentive and its basics. And I don't know what's wrong with these people. Most people understand this. The public understand it.
Of course they do.
And we're going to talk about tax later. And I think what we have is just a predicament. Like if something is a problem, it's solvable. You can solve problems. But this is worse than that. It's a predicament. And the predicament is that Labour can't, and the same with the Tories, they can't do what's necessary to solve the problem because of the backbenchers and the Labour Party itself. It's not capable of doing what is required.
But I think also there's a narrative that the Downing Street sort of spin machine, if you like, is trying to give us all, which is that, Keir Starmer's being hidebound a little bit by his backbenchers. I don't think he, in his heart of hearts, wants to do it either, because in his mind, all migrants are good. In his mind, all migrants contribute to the economy,
Well, yes, he's enumerate if he thinks that. Yeah. I mean, this is the other thing. I mean, I repeat it, but this particular category of migration, all the data says it, low-skilled migration is fiscally negative anyway. Yes. But asylum seeker migration as a category throughout Europe is massively so. Not unreasonable to think that every single one will cost about £500,000 through the cycle. This is utterly disastrous in a state that we can't even balance our books properly without borrowing massively. So no, I think that's the predicament. I agree with you. I don't think Starmer and the front bench have a different view on this particular issue. They're massively refugees welcome and sanctuary cities everywhere. Yeah. That's what they think. That's what they want. So
you can tell that they hate having to deal with this. This is something they tried not to deal with for as long as they possibly could. Yeah. And now they've finally come up with a policy which is so ridiculous that it could never work. Because apart from anything else, as I've been saying for the last couple of days, aside from the fact that they haven't explained how it's going to physically work, in terms of even if, say, for example, they've detained 2 people and they've decided that they're going to send them back to France, right? Both of those people could probably hire lawyers, they've admitted this, to keep themselves here, or at least challenge the detention and then challenge the expulsion, if you want to call it that. Even if they don't do that, and they are supposedly going to be sent back, there's no explanation of how they're going to be sent back. Are they going to be put on a plane? Are they going to be put on a bus? Where exactly are they going? The French could also refuse to have them back on the and we're paying basically for all of this. So we're paying for the French to take them back. We're paying for the French to send us some more. We're going to supposedly look at people and say, "You're okay, you can come in." It's madness. Unless they
disapply the ECHR, particularly Article 8, on most of the claims are on that now. It could go to Article 3 if they wanted, unless they get rid of that architecture, that legal architecture. You can't have a border. No. You can't have a border. I've explained, I would give the SDP's policy to anyone who wants it for the good of the country. Yeah. Set a large detention centre up on Ascension or South Georgia. We're not troubling the French. Forget about troubling the French. Don't ask the French to solve your own problem. No. It's your problem. Right. And then detain every single one, every single unsolicited arrival, ship them to Ascension for a couple of years to cool off, and then they go back to where they're from. And I promise you, that would stop the flow. And I don't believe that if you build a big detention centre, it would ever be used. No. Because I think word gets around. People think these people are idiots. They're not idiots. They're not. They're making the bargain of a century. Of course they're coming here for €5,000, getting half a £1 million state support.
And many of them are probably not paying the money up front anyway. Some of them are going into debt to do it, or they're
slavery,
sort of indoctrinated into slavery, where they end up in a nail bar or in a brothel or something like that. I mean, there's a chilling piece in the Mail today as well on 22 and 23. Sue Reed, another really good investigation. The death of EU free movement, basically saying that because of rising fears of jihadi threats from the migrants sweeping across Europe, 10 of the bloc's most influential neighbours have introduced emergency police ID checks at hundreds of internal borders, including Germany, France, Italy, Slovenia, Austria, Poland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands. We meanwhile, have no border check at all.
No, it's insane, and we're the state that can have it, because we theoretically are a self-governing nation state. That's what we voted for in 2016.
And we also have a rather big barrier called the English Channel.
Yeah, which we don't use.
Right.
No, I mean, and again, and the picture has been tried, it's established, the Australians did it, and it works. So you can do it if you want to. It always comes back, Mike, I've said on the show many times, they could do it if they want to, they don't want to. And that's the predicament that the public has now to put up with.
Yeah.
Because you've got a government that don't really want a border.
No. And the other problem, of course, that they've created with this new system is that you can now come into this country legally where you might otherwise have tried your luck illegally, because people are going to come to France and apply online to get asylum status in Britain, which they will get if, in fact, they qualify under the criteria, which is we know people here, we've got family here, which many people will say, even if they haven't.
Of course,
and we're fleeing some terrible situation.
Yeah.
So the qualification for coming in on that basis is going to encourage even more people to come.
Yeah, in some years, the asylum applications as a category of people here legally is roughly equivalent to the small boats crossings on the Channel.
Exactly.
Anyway. So it's bigger. And then overstayers and people, we don't check anything.
Well, do you remember the net migration figures last year? And I remember asking a question about this, and it didn't become clear until we found out about the Afghan migrants being smuggled into the country. But there were 76,000 asylum seekers who came in by legal routes, by the way. And so I assume that included the Afghans. Because that was on top of the 50,000 odd that came in on the small boat.
But in some years it could be 25,000 anyway.
Yeah.
On people that are here for study and then don't want to go home or whatever and have a reason. No, the whole thing is desperately depressing, and the public, now immigration as an issue is the top issue, despite the problems that we have with the economy.
Right.
It's now at 30%, it's the top, and 2 points down from that is the economy. So the public know, and on many things
and
the
also
public
the two things are interrelated, aren't they? Because one of the reasons the economy is in such a bad way is because of all the money we waste on illegal migration and on dealing with people seeking asylum.
And we don't, and it's short-termism, again, we've spoken about this, it's short-termism every single time, because it's very, very expensive. A low-skilled migrant is very expensive fiscally, because you've got to educate and look after in the health needs and housing needs of their entire family. So it's very expensive to ship people in with low skills. Meanwhile, our own indigenous population is increasingly on benefits, particularly the young, with anxiety and so on. But think about this. Low-skilled migration is expensive anyway. You get a double whammy if you can get someone off welfare who's here into work. You not only avoid the low-skilled, physically negative cost, you reduce your own benefits bill. So I've argued, if you have to pay people in social care more, it's actually cheaper. It would be cheaper to do that, to get our own people and train our own people here, instead of using this short-term fix all the time.
Absolutely right. A bit more breaking news. Apparently, put the old cape on and look as though you're sort of, fighting for the people. Good luck to him. If it gets results, I don't mind people doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an approach. The problem with the Tories, I wish they'd done some of this around the government.
Yeah. I mean, what they will say, I gave him a chance to say it, and he didn't say it, but what he could have said was that, the Labour government and lawyers stopped everything that they tried to do. And I realise that doesn't admonish them at all from not being any good at it. No. But every manoeuvre they tried seemed to not work.
Well, they were badly led. I mean, they had a large majority and they didn't use it. And again, I've said before, because the values of the Tory party is too many of them are Lib Dems. Yeah. Rory Stewart.
Rory Stewart decided he is a Lib Dem.
Lib Dem, yeah. I mean, you can't tell.
We always knew that, though.
There are about, to be fair, and I probably shouldn't say this, but there are about 10 or 12 very good Tories, as you know. But most of them aren't. Most of them really aren't. Right. So even if Johnson with an 80 seat, 70, 80%, they couldn't get it.
And they're not even fiscal Tories now, because they talk about, the party of low taxes. People just fall about laughing. Yeah. If it wasn't for Labour, we had the highest tax regimen ever. Yeah. Didn't we?
If as a self-governing democracy, they'd, in 2018, 2019, when the tiny little trickle started, if they'd had anything about them, they'd have stopped it.
Yeah.
And once it starts to be a flood, you're in real trouble. Word gets around. And no, I bless them. I mean, the problem with the public, you speak to the public, they don't believe the Tories. I mean, you've had your chance.
I know, we get that all the time. Whenever I speak to any Tory MP, a lot of people say, why even bothering?
Sorry.
You know, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know. But there we are. Just finally on tax, there's word that there's going to be council tax rises coming because local councils haven't got enough money.
Yeah.
There's word that the income tax rises are coming, whether it's in the form of a moving of the thresholds or whether it's an increase in VAT. Nobody's quite sure. There's no question that this government have completely lost the plot economically.
They have, and we're in a serious doom loop now. Again, I've mentioned several times before. It's the worst circumstances. Did you see the June borrowing figures, the net borrowing figures for June alone? Over 20 billion.
Yeah.
That figure, Mike, is almost as big as the peak lockdown borrowing. So it's an emergency.
And they've borrowed around about 20 billion every single month since they've been in.
It goes. You can get a surplus in January for the tax revenues, but yeah, no. In total, the facts are this, right? So we're paying about 120 billion in interest on the gilts. And we're borrowing 140, so we're basically borrowing to pay interest. Yeah. And you've got this doom loop. So their reaction, again, it's a problem. Their reaction is that they won't cut anything. That's the problem. They won't cut any government expenditure because we saw with the welfare reforms, Labour Party backbenchers won't let them, and they probably don't want to do that. So they just have to squeeze the tax base even further. Yeah. But don't fall off your chair. I actually support a rebasing of council tax because it's perfectly rational. Yeah. If you're in Doncaster, if you've got a terraced house in Doncaster, the amount you pay in council tax as a percentage of what the house is worth is much higher than if you've got a very nice house in Surrey. So actually, I would probably support a rebasing.
Well, they haven't changed the system since the 90s, have they?
No.
So, I mean, it does need to be recalibrated. I get that. But the trouble with recalibrating, and politicians use that word, but what they really mean is just put the prices up.
Yeah,
put it up.
Yeah, so even in London South East, people are going to pay more.
But we're already paying more. It went up last year.
I get that. No, but if it was a foot race between. I mean, I think government expenditures should be cut in areas. They're still doing crazy DEI. They're still spending money, and they've lost the plot.
Well, look at HMRC this morning. What they're spending on
on anti-white DEI sessions. About
guilty for being British.
Yeah, it stinks, and we just don't have the money for this stuff, and they don't understand the urgency. But I'd far sooner they recalibrate council tax than put NI up or anything like that. This is a jobs tax. It will wreck the economy. Yeah. So that's the risk. So yeah, we're in uncharted territory.
It's hard to know how much more they can wreck the economy, but every time I say that, they manage to come up with something else. Yeah. William Clouston, great to see you. Thank you very much, leader of the SDP.